Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today. First of all, on this 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, taking a look at this ascending triangle pattern, where in yesterday's video, zooming in here a little bit, after we got this bounce to the upside, I said that I would not be flipping bullish until I actually see that we are trading back inside this range once again. And as you can see on this chart, we actually got a rejection from that exact trend line on the 4-hour time frame. Either way, to kind of close my thoughts off for this pattern right here, because for now this is obviously not looking bullish because this pattern might be getting invalidated. And ideally, as a last chance for Bitcoin here, we could see a move to the upside here, trading back inside this range. But ultimately, this would need to happen before the 17th or 18th this month, which is already in a couple of days. And in the case that we do not see something like that, well, then we just have to conclude that this pattern is no longer relevant, and this potential breakout up to 87,000 US dollars in the case we break out above 72K is not valid, is not active. So those are just my thoughts on this pattern for now. And what we also continue to see on this 4-hour time frame here, taking a look at this descending channel for Bitcoin, is actually that right here we got another perfect rejection from the top of this range. So again, in the recent videos, I said that if we do not get a breakout to the upside from this descending channel, I will not be flipping bullish, because simply there is not enough confirmation for me to be bullish in the short term. Although zooming out to the 1 week time frame, and I am sorry for this, either way on this 1 week time frame, I am, of course, still bullish on Bitcoin in the long term. It's just that for now, in the immediate short term, it is looking a little bit more bearish. Although I do think that eventually Bitcoin is going to break out of the top of this range and set new all-time highs. So that is something to take into consideration. There is a difference between these different time frames, because short term, I am not too bullish. In fact, I am actually kind of bearish here until, of course, we see those bullish confirmations. But long term, I am still bullish on Bitcoin and crypto in general. So now taking a look at the short-term support and resistance levels for Bitcoin, because yesterday we actually saw a rejection from this big level of resistance sitting from 68.5K all the way up to 70,000 US dollars. And we actually saw that rejection from 70K exactly. So we traded to the downside and have now fallen below this short-term level of support sitting at 67.2K. And I will get back to this level of support in just a second here. But as for some support levels that are sitting below that, well, we do have this big level of support sitting from 66 all the way down to 65,000 US dollars. And if we really get some insanely bearish price action here, then the next big level of support below that is from 62.4 all the way down to 60,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Although for now, I do think it is a little bit early to start worrying about this level of support when we haven't even broken down below this big level of support right here. And there are actually some reasons why I think we might get a bounce from around that 66K level. So I will get to that a little bit later on in this video. Either way, for now, what we should be taking a look at are the Fibonacci levels, because right here you can see that we traded below this 67.2K level, which is the 0.618 Fibonacci level. So ideally, what you would really want to see later today is a candle close on the daily time frame, the 1-day time frame, above that Fibonacci level, because the next Fibonacci level of support below the current price is the 0.5 Fibonacci level sitting at 65.2K. So personally, these are two big price levels that I'm paying attention to for Bitcoin. And as for why I was saying I do want to see the price action around the 66K level and that potentially we can see a bounce from there, is actually because of these Bitcoin liquidation heat maps. First of all, on this 3-day time frame, where you can see that we have a lot of liquidity as low as 65.8K. However, there's also a lot of liquidity at 66K exactly. So that's why I do think that if we sweep this liquidity, potentially we could be seeing a bounce from there. Although, as always, we must take into consideration the actual technical analysis factors as well as the indicators and what they are telling us. Either way, important to note as well, though, is actually that we do have a lot of liquidity to the upside here, as high as 70.5K. However, since we are currently very close to this big level of liquidity, I do think it is likely that we are taking out this 66K level sometime soon. However, after that, then most of the liquidity is to the upside. So yes, I do think there is still some upside left here in the short term, because also zooming out to the 1 week time frame for the Bitcoin liquidation heat maps, we can see that most of the liquidity is in fact to the upside, again, as high as about 70.4K. And in the case that you don't know, typically the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there is the most liquidity on this chart. So where there are the most yellow areas on this chart, and right now that is to the upside on this time frame. Although I do want to be very clear that the technical analysis actually matters, because yeah, a lot of things are looking pretty bearish as of right now, because a lot of bullish patterns have been invalidated recently or are close to being invalidated. And if we do see more of those bullish patterns invalidate, then in that case, yeah, it is simply more likely that we are going to the downside. And hence, it is also why I am more bearish in the short term here. Either way, moving on to the Bitcoin ETF flow tables for today, it is actually interesting to note that we got a net $100 million inflow on Wednesday, because we saw 2 days of net outflows here after a long streak of nothing but inflows. So currently the Bitcoin ETF investors are kind of flip-flopping. They're kind of being bearish one day, being bullish the next day. So for now, there simply isn't enough data for a trend to really emerge. So this flip-flopping here is kind of suggesting some consolidation or potentially some bearish price action, unless we start getting massive inflows into these Bitcoin ETFs once again. Though one thing we must always take into consideration is actually the RSI momentum indicator, because for example here on the 1 hour time frame, we are getting kind of close to reaching oversold territories. And typically when that happens, like for example here, when it happened recently, there is limited room to the downside. So usually what you'll see is either some choppy sideways price action or even a little bit of bullish momentum. So right here in this level, you saw that the RSI was oversold. And then after we saw some choppy sideways price action. And then after that, we saw some bullish momentum reaching into overbought territory on this 1 hour time frame, after which we saw the RSI reset back down again, right? So that's kind of how that works in the case that you didn't know. And I do think that once again, if we reach into oversold territory, so whenever the RSI is below 30, it is likely that at some point the RSI will need to reset back again to around that 50 level. So that is something to pay attention to. And on the 4 hour time frame as well, we recently reached deep into oversold territory, but have since actually reset the RSI back to around that 50 level and are now potentially getting another leg to the downside here. So personally, that is something that I'm looking out for. But apart from that liquidity, it isn't very clear that we are getting a quick move to the upside anytime soon. I might be completely wrong in that assessment, and I'm currently not in any short positions because I just continue to take short-term trades on the much lower time frames, because for me personally, at least, they are much more reliable. Either way, if you do want to see a reversal sometime soon, ideally you would see like deep oversold territory being reached, or for example, the price starting to make higher lows, in which case you would see something like this, some price action indicating that the price structure is actually changing and that actually a reversal is coming sometime soon. Now taking a look at Ethereum on this 1 day time frame that recently did not manage to clear above the 4K level, which was also the 0.786 Fibonacci level, and is right now getting a big move to the downside here, almost reaching as low as this 0.618 Fibonacci level sitting at 33.30. So if you do see the price go that low, potentially you could be seeing a bounce from there. Either way, it is very important to see what happens around this price level if, again, we go that low, because seeing a break below and then flipping it into a level of resistance would actually be very bearish for Ethereum, because the 0.5 Fibonacci level is the next Fibonacci level of support below that, sitting at $28 and $50 for the price of ETH. Now, of course, recently Ethereum has just been following the Bitcoin price action, but one thing that is noteworthy in terms of TA for Ethereum is that technically we are still breaking out of this falling wedge pattern, which of course I called out when we were trading down here, and then again when we were trading this breakout. Either way, we longed this move to the upside and took profits right here. And so long as this pattern does not get invalidated at about $3,100 for the price of ETH, technically Ethereum is still targeting this $4,100 price level. So that is important to note, but of course we must take into consideration the short-term levels of support and resistance. And like I said, also what Bitcoin is doing. Either way, what we can see for now is that yesterday we held this as a level of support, in this big level of support sitting from 35.30 to about 34.30, where again right now we are seeing another little bounce, temporarily holding this as a level of support. But if you do see Ethereum trading lower here, then the next big level of support is this Fibonacci level sitting at 33.30, like I was saying earlier, with below that the next big level of support being from 32.50 all the way down to 31.50. So yes, it is actually pretty critical that Ethereum starts to get a move to the upside sometime soon here. And if you do see that move to the upside, it will run into this short-term level of resistance sitting at 36.50, with above that a big level of resistance sitting at 37.50 up to 3800. So those are some price levels that I'm paying attention to for Ethereum right now. Moving on to Solana on this 4-hour time frame, which has just been getting wrecked over this last month or so, and is now trading below the 0.382 Fibonacci level, sitting at $152. So you would love to see some price action above that level once again, because this is honestly looking pretty bearish, with the next Fibonacci level of support sitting at $138 for the price of Solana. So yes, ideally we would really start to see a move to the upside sometime soon. Although noteworthy here is that we reached into oversold territory and then have actually already reset that RSI back to around the 50 level. And on the 1-day time frame, there is still a lot of room to the downside here actually, before reaching into oversold territory. And of course, it can go as low as, well, 1 basically, or 0. So I mean, on the 1-day time frame, I don't think we're going to see an RSI of 5 until we're probably in the bear market or something. So yeah, I think that is a bit unrealistic. But yes, I do think it is possible that we actually reach into oversold territory here and then getting a bounce from there. Personally, what I'm looking out for Solana right now is basically just to see what Bitcoin is doing. If I see Bitcoin starting to trade more to the upside and looking more bullish, then I do expect Solana to start a reversal to the upside at some point. And yes, even though I have been more bearish on Solana recently, I would say over the last couple of weeks or so, I am still long-term bullish on Solana, even though it is just looking a bit more bearish in the short term here. Because again, I do think we are still in a bull run and it is not over yet. So at some point, I am expecting the price to start reversing to the upside and making new all-time highs. So what should you be looking out for Solana here? Well, right now we are trading in a big level of support, sitting from 150 all the way down to $140 for the price of Solana. Now we do have this level of resistance sitting at 152 roughly, and then some short-term levels of resistance above that. So at 155, 160, and then above that at 164. And yes, there is, of course, that Fibonacci level that I was talking about a little bit earlier here, sitting at $163. Now, if for some reason Solana continues to just be extremely bearish here, the next big level of support is from 133 all the way down to $125 for the price of Solana. Although I do think we should be seeing some kind of, I guess, either consolidation or just potentially even a little bit more bullish momentum in the coming days or weeks or so, unless Bitcoin just gets completely wrecked. But even if Bitcoin starts consolidating, I do think we could be seeing a bit more bullish price action for Solana at some point. Although for now, it just looks a little bit bearish. Either way, if you are new here and you haven't joined the Discord server yet, I highly recommend you go check it out, because this is a very active community with a lot of people there trading crypto every single day. So currently, as you can see right here, we have 766 members in this Discord server. So yeah, the community is very active every single day. I highly recommend you go check it out. Either way, if you do end up joining the server or not, this has been today's market update. Thank you very much for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.